Life at Sea podcast. Here, we will share the skills you need to make your experience and adventure out at sea a success. Hear inspiring stories from experienced crew from all diversities. Gain knowledge and know your rights. Be part of the crew, Life at Sea. And let's welcome your host, Raymond Crystal.
Hello and welcome back to Crew Life at Sea, the only place where you can find useful information, advice, insights, and resources to help inspire you take that next step in working on a cruise ship. How are you, Daniel?
Good.
Could you tell me your journey that led you to where you are today?
Well, my dad was in the business, so I grew up on a cruise ship. Pretty natural evolution, if you want to call it this way. I started working when I was 17 years old. And never left, really.
So you are Greek, right?
Yes,
Greek.
by birth.
Could you tell us a little bit about what a hotel director does on board?
Hotel director usually is responsible for all hotel operations, so it means everything that has to do with the guest experience, and I'm responsible for. So major departments would be the food and beverage and housekeeping. Then you have entertainment, you have the partners, where you have spa, shops, casino, basically everything that touches the guest experience.
So you're like 80% of the ship, kind of?
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, the responsibilities is it's to the guest and to the team. So the guests, obviously, they're on the top of the list because these are the people that keep us afloat.
They pay for our bills.
And ultimately, that's what we're here for. You gotta have a passion to deliver a guest experience. You have an opportunity to create unforgettable memories for somebody. And over the years, you realize that you have the opportunity to create once in a lifetime memories for somebody, even maybe their last memory.
Yeah.
And it's pretty powerful when you think, the impact that you can have at any level on board. So that's the first challenge, the first responsibility, and of course the next is the team. Somebody comes on board, no matter where they're from, no matter what job they do. My responsibility is to make sure that they have a great place to work, that they have great food, that they have a good place to rest, that they have an environment that is free of harassment, that
so
is
like
educational. But sometimes. sometimes. But I think these are the two major stakeholders. And of course, you have your owners as well, who is the company that is the other stakeholder.
Okay. The little bit that you see around, there's more to it, right?
Of course. You have to manage all these responsibilities.
Can you tell me the process if somebody wanted to work on board as a hotel director? How should they go about it?
Well, to start off as a hotel director would be kind of tough.
That's what I was thinking.
Not because people cannot do it, but you need experience to be able to transition into our side of the business. Somebody who's been a general manager on land, yes, you can transition. It's not an easy transition, but it can be done. The best way is to work yourself through, work yourself up the ladder. You can start at any position in the hotel, and the ingredients that it takes to be successful is you gotta apply yourself, really gotta give your best, and have that desire to move up, learn, and continue your growth.
And fail in order to succeed.
Well, you have to. I mean, if you don't make mistakes, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
We all do them every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you make your decisions?
How do I make my decisions? A lot of them are through experience, but I always ask 3 questions. I ask, is it good for the guest? Is it good for the team? Is it good for the company? If I have a yes on all these 3, then it's a no-brainer. If I have a no on one of these 3, then I'll think about it, the team will have input and we'll make the best.
I got to remember that one. That's a really good one.
Makes your life easy.
Love it.
I think the most important thing that you learn on your decision making on a ship is that stress does not lead you anywhere. It doesn't change any outcome, and it doesn't affect the outcome. There's no point of you getting stressed. There's a different urgency working on a ship. The best decisions is by being yourself and being the best of who you are, and make the best decision that you think is possible. So, even if you make a mistake, you're just going to learn from it and move on.
I'm sure you've had some unhappy guests.
Over the years? Sure.
How do you handle that? I mean, because they can be very demanding.
Well, I think honesty is the best policy. If you make a mistake, you just have to admit it.
Yeah.
It's I find some people don't want a confrontation. They think that it's wrong to just say, I'm sorry, but we messed up. I don't think it is. And every time you do it, it actually, it's a refreshing thing.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you heard in your daily interactions anywhere, I'm sorry, it's not my fault? Well, it is a situation. So, at the end of the day, I think honesty is very, very important.
Yes.
And a lot of people tend to underestimate other people's intelligence, and I think that's the worst mistake you can do.
Yes,
when you're dealing with a complaint. So,
how does it work when it comes to insubordination from a guest? Can you tell me an example and how you deal with that?
Well, you got to define this a little bit better in terms of subordination. What do you mean?
Like they're trying to overstep you. You're trying to help them, but they're right and they know better, and they keep bringing you down, and they keep on pushing you down. And they think they know better, and they're just trying to overstep you.
And you take the human dynamic. Our business is, I always say, it's not new things.
Mm-hmm.
Take the human dynamic. If in your mind you think you're right, and I on the other side try to convince you that you're not, is that possible?
Never.
Exactly.
It's a mindset.
So why fight it? Just let the other person vent.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people struggle again with conflict, and I think that's one of the things that a lot of the team members that I see year after year struggle with, and take things personally,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not comfortable with confrontation. So you got to realize that the other person needs to vent, right or wrong. This is their mindset. Even if they're wrong, your position is not to say, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. Find something. You can always do something. There's never a single time that you cannot do anything.
Yes.
Find something that will compensate for an idea. And you know what? May offer them some different thoughts calmly after they vent. Some people actually open their minds again, and they actually listen. And if you can put it in such a way that they actually change their own mind, and you don't have anything to do with that, that's a win-win scenario.
I didn't know you like 4 or 5 years ago. I only just started to realize these things. What part of your job is the most challenging?
The most challenging. I don't know. I think everything is a challenge. I think it's what makes this job great. To me, it's not a job. It's who I am, what I do. And I think that when you have that approach, then all of a sudden your perspective changes. My biggest challenge is to try and control my weight, actually. Stop eating this great food that we have. So, I think that's my biggest challenge.
Yeah, I know, because it's kind of difficult. We get a lot of good food.
Yeah, that's the problem, especially here.
Tell me a little bit about hours of work and how you schedule your day.
The day is dependent on what day it is, in terms of when do we have our guests come on the ship, when do they come off. These are the turnaround days, or as commonly referred on ships, embarkation or debark days. They are the longest days. So these days depends on the port. I remember when we were in Alaska and we sailed out of Seward. We used to dock at about 3:30 in the morning, and then we started offloading luggage by 5. And so I was up by 5. I was up and running. And the next time I would be in my room, maybe 10 or 11 o'clock at night. But that's one day. Now the next day, usually in my position, it's again depending on the needs of the business. I'll take a couple of hours in the afternoon off. But again, you're probably asking the wrong person, because to me it doesn't feel like it's work. So
yeah.
I cannot really pinpoint when I'm actually thinking, oh, now I'm resting, because even in my room it's exactly the same feeling.
You've got a good mindset. That's the thing.
Well, I think it's important. You wake up in the morning, and I firmly believe that at that time you make a choice. Are you going to be happy, or are you going to be miserable? If you make a choice to be miserable, no matter what happens, you are going to be miserable.
Yeah.
I make a choice to be happy and think positively of my day. When you're in this line of work, especially on a cruise ship, I think you gotta have a lot of passion. You gotta really enjoy what you do, because if you don't, the hours are very long.
Yeah, and you might as well change your job or do something else.
We have a choice to do something different. But if you do enjoy, to me, there's no better training ground than cruise ships, because you learn hospitality from the bottom up. You really, really, really have the opportunity to apply this 24/7.
Wow. Yeah.
And plus you get paid to see the world, so that's not a small thing.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest things of it all.
Yep, absolutely. Not many people can have our experiences, that's for sure.
Knowing what you know now, if you could change one thing in your career at sea, what would it have been? Nothing. That's it?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I had a feeling from the start that I was thinking, should I ask this question? I'm like, no, I still got to ask it because the people need to know. But I had a feeling.
Nothing.
All right, let's move on then. Your toughest day you've ever experienced at sea. Tell me about it and how you got through it.
Oh, God.
I'm sure you can remember one tough day.
Quite a few. Well, I think I'll give you my first one.
Okay.
Which was an eye-opening experience. I was a guest relations manager on a cruise ship. I'm dating myself heavily back in 1993.
Wow.
And I was pretty young at the time. My first contract as a guest relations manager. And we were going to San Juan in Puerto Rico. We're doing a 7-day cruise. And back then in St. Thomas, which was our previous port, the airline representatives used to come on board and validate the tickets for our guests and give them boarding passes. And that was before internet, before what we all know now. So it was a pretty manual system. Part of my responsibility as a GRM was to actually see that process through, and I used to have a debug chart. That was a puzzle that I would put together and basically assign all my guests on colors and according to their flights and whatnot. And in those days, American Airlines was the one airline that had 80% of the flights out of Puerto Rico. And on that cruise, we heard on TV that there were a possibility that they would go on strike. So, now I laugh, back then I wasn't. So we go to St. Thomas, the airline representatives come up, and most importantly, the American Airlines people are up. So I said, okay, perfect. If they're here validating tickets, that means no problem for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, I get a phone call from one of the stewards that was up on the lounge, and he says to me, Chief, he said, I'm in the card room, and there's a bunch of passports laying around. And I said, passports? What do you mean passports? He said, yeah, they're boxes with passports. What he didn't realize was that he knew the boxes that we used to carry the passports to present to authorities, and in the same boxes I would put the airline tickets. So the airline tickets were the passports. So I ran upstairs, and true to form, they had abandoned ship. Literally, they had left, and they left all the airline tickets there. Half of them were stamped, half of them were not. And I go, oh my God, what do we do now? So I take everything down. I go to the hotel director, and I said, this is what's happening. That means we're going on strike. So he said, okay, let's call the office. So we called Miami and started talking to people. And the difficult part was that weekend, it was the Pan American Games in Puerto Rico that year.
So it was packed.
So there was no hotels available. We couldn't get day rooms for our guests. Plus there were other 2 ships that were turning around the same day.
Man.
And we're talking about 5,000-6,000 guests that would come off all these 3 ships at the same time without an airline ticket to go out of the island, without a hotel room.
Oh my God.
And with all these guests for the next cruise waiting to board the ship, so you couldn't even keep them on the ship. So my company at the time and the airsea manager, God rest her soul because he passed away, Frida. She's so amazing. I don't know, she pulled a rabbit out of the hat. She managed to get, even chartering a plane, and managed to get all of our guests out the same day. Literally, a lot of guests flew out at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, but at least they flew out.
Yeah.
And then she connected them through Miami. In other words, she did an amazing job.
Saved by the bell, eh?
So I remember it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just finished putting the new details in the airline envelopes for the guests and send them over to distribute them with the night team to all the rooms, because we still had all the tickets. So I'm very happy. I'm exhausted, and I have to wake up in 3 hours now because, of course, next day is embarkation, debark. So I go to my room, and literally, as I take my shirt off, and I'm just looking forward to this bed, I get a phone call. And in those days, we had the stateroom services in lieu of the front desk. The front desk was not open 24 hours, but we had one person that was on duty 24 hours, and she had a window into the lobby, and she was screaming on the phone. It's like, "Chief, help me, they're gonna kill me." I'm like, "What do you mean they're gonna kill you?" They said, "They're gonna kill me, help me." So I said, "Okay, I'm coming." So I ran down, and what do I see? There was a mob scene. Guests were just flipping. And they're like, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm the guest relations manager."
Worst thing you could have said.
And like, "It's your fault, blah, blah, blah." And they started screaming in the back against the door. I don't know how I had the presence of mind, because mainly I couldn't even hear myself while I was screaming and yelling. And I put my hands up and I said, "Stop. Unless you shut up, I'm not going to help you. I'm going to go." And I think I said something to that effect, but literally it worked, because literally they stopped because they were shocked by my response. And, I spoke to them and I said, "Look, this is what is happening." And of course, I could see their frustration as well.
Of course.
But I think that was a situation that was really a very difficult one, that through trial and error at that point, we managed to diffuse it. And of course, the next morning, the yelling continued, but at least it wasn't a mob scene anymore.
Wow,
and it was just difficult getting everybody off the ship.
How you do that,
but,
man?
It was interesting. Lots of lessons out of that.
Imagine. That was, I think, one of the most toughest stories I've heard during this podcast.
And there are many others.
Wow, thank gosh I'm behind the scenes and not in front of the scenes, because I would have
get hectic.
punched somebody by now. Okay, well, let's move on. I ask one question to everybody. Okay. It's called the big question.
Uh-oh.
Tell me the most shocking thing you have ever encountered or seen in your career at sea.
Shocking in what
Shocking,
sense?
anything. It can be, what I've had is a ghost story, or someone commits suicide. I've had an explosion. I've had a fire before New Year. Something that you will never forget, that really was like, wow, at sea.
Oh, we did have a fire.
Is it a big one, or?
It was a very big one.
Front, back?
It was actually in the engine room.
As
I was a cadet.
Normally.
I was a cadet on a very, very old ship.
So you were even a cadet? Wow, you really started from the bottom all the way up.
I was a cleaner, actually. I started as a deck boy.
Wow, man. Well, excellent job, eh?
No, I mean, that's what you do. You
Yeah.
gotta learn from the ground up.
Yeah.
And I remember I woke up on the alarm bells.
Mm-hmm.
And that ship was on fire a lot. And this time it was probably the scariest one of all, because the fire was out of control.
Okay.
And they saved it literally last minute. All 6 cylinders of the engine, the main engine, were on fire, and apparently the flames were of course touching the ceiling, but we had fixtures melting on top of that floor above the engine room.
How many crew members on this vessel?
It was about 450 crew members.
So a lot
so
of you.
we all went to muster. We mustered our guests, and everybody was in a panic. I was scared because I was very young. I was 18 years old, and it was my first actual emergency.
That's a huge
So
one for a first one.
It was pretty scary, I must say.
I've had one, but not that big. This is kind of a small one, but I think you topped it off on
Yeah,
there.
that was pretty scary, I must say.
So working at sea has changed your life dramatically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no question about it.
You've been at sea for so many years. What makes you keep coming back?
Well, there's a saying in Greece: once you get your butt wet, you can never dry it off. And that's very, very true. Look, there is when you're on ships, you always talk about land.
Yeah.
You always talk about the dream of going on land and settling on land and like the routine and whatnot. And then you're on land and you don't have vacation time anymore, where you used to have 2 months out of every contract or 6 weeks, and you still complain about it too short of a vacation. And you start working on land and all of a sudden they give you 2 weeks vacation a year, if you get it, after the first year. And then pretty much you're stuck in a rut. Most of the times you pay your bills, you pay your car insurance, you look at your paycheck at the end of the day and you go,
Like, what the-
where did the money go?
all that hard work,
And
that's
then
it.
all that vacation that you were planning to go, let's say to Bali or some exotic place, because once you're on a ship and you had all that cash in your pocket and no bills, on your vacation now you could stay in Bali for 5 nights and think nothing of it.
Absolutely.
But now, try to find the airfare, try to find the hotel. You go, okay, I guess I'm going to the village next door, so
Just
to
for a
speak.
day or two.
For a day or two. So, while I may be exaggerating a bit, I think there's a very healthy dose of truth. I think working on a ship, it's probably the best job you can do if you don't have a family.
Yes.
You're on your own. You are young, you have no obligations, no family, no nothing. Sure, you're going to miss your friends, you're going to miss your buddies, blah, 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 your parents. But you get to see the world. You get paid to see the world. You learn so many things that other people pay to get educated like that. You get to be proficient in a wonderful profession. And you get to climb up. You get to be in an environment where pretty much a lot of the things are provided for you. You're taken care of. Have amazing vacations.
Good life.
Have a very good life. And once you're on land, I miss the travel.
First thing,
I miss the travel.
of course.
There's something to it, even if you're stuck on a bus route, as I call it, on these big cruise ships that they leave out of Miami and they go to Cozumel, Playa del Carmen, Key West, back to
Same.
Miami, same old, 6 months out of a year. There's still something to it. You wake up in the morning, you go, oh, we're in Cozumel today. Okay. There's still something to it. Again, I think it's a great school. It's a great place. You get to meet some amazing people. You can make friends all over the world. You get to be in an environment that is pretty unique.
So we recommend them to work on a ship at least once in your life.
I think if you're young, I think
Definitely.
there's no doubt about it.
At least once, just to go and see the
Absolutely.
world.
You get to be. A lot of people are scared when they don't travel. A lot of people are apprehensive about it.
Yes.
I think that they shouldn't.
Get out their comfort zone, take that
Just do
risk.
it.
Yeah, just do it. Well, Daniel, you topped it off for me tonight. It was a great honor to have you on my show.
Thank
I
you.
thank you so much for everything.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Cheers, Daniel. Ciao.
Thank you. Ciao.
Thanks for listening to Crew Life at Sea podcast. Want any of your questions answered? Send us an email at crewlifeatseainfogroup.com. Thank thank you for being a part of our adventure at sea.